So here at Azure, lately we've had so many people asking about how to get rid of the congestion from the complications of COVID and sometimes just the winter flu or pneumonia or whatever comes up. And we've had this thing we lovingly dub hot and cold in our family for a long time. And sometimes it seems like some of these crafts get lost, and this has worked very well for us. Sometimes we've had cases where someone absolutely couldn't breathe, and myself included. I've had weak lungs, and it works miraculously. So I've asked Kimberly to please see if she can demo it, because she's the best, and so I will turn it over to her to show you how to do that. Thank you.
Hello friends. During this time when illness seems to be so rampant, whether it's the COVID flu or some other type of influenza, I'm sure that we can all say that we know someone or we have a family member that has suffered in this past year with some sort of respiratory ailment. I'm here today to share a home remedy with you that we've used in our family for many, many years. I've used it to relieve pneumonia, asthma, any upper respiratory unwellness in my family. It can be done safely on adults and children. It's simple, it's effective, and it really doesn't cost anything. There's a few supplies that you'll need, so I'll go over those with you right now. First of all, you're going to need a pot with hot water in it, and I usually keep it on the stove at simmer to keep it hot the whole time. You're going to need a bowl or a dish pan with cold water and a bag of ice or ice out of your refrigerator just to keep it nice and cold during the treatment. You'll need a piece of wool. I just have an old wool sweater that I'm using. You can buy the wool sheets that they sell, and that is what your hot rag will go in to insulate and keep that heat on your patient's chest without letting it soak through and burning them. So this works really good. You need to use wool. I had somebody tell me that they were allergic to wool, and so what they did was just opened up a cotton cloth, put that on the chest first, and then use the wool on top of that, which works just fine. You'll need a couple of dishcloths or like hand towels, one for your hot, one for your cold for the treatment. A couple of towels to put over your piece of wool once it's on their chest to keep it all insulated in there and nice and warm so it doesn't release the heat. And I use a pair of rubber gloves. These are cotton lined gloves just because the water is really hot and it makes it easier to wring it out. It just helps. I've done it without also, but this is a really nice handy tool for the person that's doing the treatment. So once you get your patient all comfortable and lying down, I usually cover them up with a nice warm blanket so that they can be cozy. You can lie them on a couch if that's more comfortable. I have a nice long counter, and I usually use that because my goal is to be as close to the hot water as I can so that it doesn't cool off as you carry the rag all the way into the living room. But anything works, so just make it work for you and your household and your family. Okay, so we're going to start with a hot rag, and we're going to wrap it in this piece of wool and put it on his chest for 3 minutes. The treatment calls for 7 rounds of 3 minutes of hot on his chest, followed by 1 minute of cold, alternating 7 different times. So it takes around a half an hour to do this treatment. And I just wanted to mention that when you do the hot and the cold, it's really important that you don't have any time in between putting the hot and the cold on alternately, because the goal is to shock the body with a fast going from hot to cold to hot to cold, and that's where you get the most effective treatment out of this. So I forgot to mention that you need a timer or a stopwatch. I have my stopwatch here, so I'll be able to press the button and go for 3 minutes as soon as I put the rag on his chest. So I'm going to start by dipping the towel in the hot water. I usually do it lengthwise like this so that I can dip it in without getting the whole rag in there, and it works, especially if you're doing it without gloves. It works a lot better than if you don't have gloves. You can take some kind of a tong and wring it, but I'm going to go ahead and just wring it with these gloves. It's nice and hot. It's just right below a boil. I open it up, let a little bit of the steam off because it's really hot. Fold it in quarters. Make sure it's all tucked in my sweater here. And then I lay this piece against his skin. Grab one of the towels. Lay that on to hold it all in, and then cover him up and push start on my timer. So I want to mention that your patient may think that it's too hot, and it might be right at first. The first rag, he's definitely going to feel the most because the body's not used to it yet. So you always want to like take your glove off, feel underneath, and make sure, especially with a child, make sure that you don't have it too hot because you definitely don't want to burn their skin. It's going to turn nice and pink, and he's good to go. So we're at about 2.5 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and get my other cloth ready. I'm going to dip it in this ice water. It's nice and cold. And wring it out. And this first one is definitely the hardest probably for the patient because it's very cold on their chest, but they get used to it after a little while. So we're at 3 minutes. Got ice dropping off of this. We just pull everything back, remove the hot rag, and drop it on. How does that feel? Cold. Nice and cold. So we're going to leave this on for 1 minute, and during that time we'll go prepare our next hot rag. I also wanted to mention that if you use essential oils, it might be a great time to put those right on the chest before you put the hot rag down the first time, and it'll drive those oils deep in. You might all have your favorite oils for helping with breathing or congestion. There's a lot of good oils like eucalyptus, melaleuca, and peppermint. I'm sure you all have your favorites. So when we've had a really severe case in our home and I've been trying to treat one of the family members with pneumonia or something, I have definitely used this treatment on both the front and the back. So when they are finished with the 7 rounds of the hot and the cold treatment, have them sit up and then roll over onto their tummy and do the same thing on the back. And that has been really effective in breaking up a lot of the congestion for them. Okay, so we've just finished our 7th round of hot and cold, and you always want to end on the cold. Heat opens up the pores and cold seals it up and closes the pores. So we just want to end nicely with the cold so that the body doesn't have to work to cool it off from the hot rag before and do any extra work. I hope the information in this video can be a blessing to you and your family as much as it has been to our family. And just be creative with it. There's a lot of other things you can do with this treatment. Personally, I've used it on spider bites to draw out poison, to bring things to a head like a sty on the eye, for all kinds of congestion. It's been a huge help in our family, and hopefully you'll be able to take the information and use it for you and your loved ones. Thanks so much.